The Black Noah, I just strangled me a goat. Now, surface level, this is a fire bar, right? Especially considering what Kendrick had just did in the battle. Especially if you want to go a little deeper and maybe say he's gonna do it to another goat, considering that there was two of every animal on that ark. But what if there's a genuine parallel between Kendrick Lamar and Noah? What if there is a genuine parallel between what Kendrick Lamar is doing in the industry and what Noah was commanded to do with the wicked world? That would be interesting. I also wouldn't put it past Kendrick, considering he made a whole song about rewriting the devil's story to take back the power of humanity. So what we're going to do is what we do every single Sunday. And that is to prove that the world is just a bunch of stories in the Bible rehashed over and over and over again. And I'm not gonna lie, y'all. By the time we get to the end of this video, oh man, let's just get to it, okay? First, for the people who are not aware of the story of Noah, I got a summary for y'all that I'm gonna break down, all right? So the Bible story of Noah's Ark is filled with faith, perseverance, and promise. Noah was a man who found great favor in God's eyes. The entire population of mankind had become evil and wicked. What does that sound like? And God decided to bring a flood to the earth to destroy everyone but Noah and his family. God told Noah to prepare an ark big enough to hold one male and one female from every kind of animal and creature. This is why many pictures depict Noah ark showing animals coming two by two. 1,000, 1,000. Anyway, when it started raining, Noah brought his wife and sons Shem, Ham, and Japheth and their wives onto the ark. It rained for 40 days and 40 nights. After coming to rest on a mountain, Noah sent out a dove to find dry land, but it returned. 7 days later, he sent out another dove and it returned with an olive leaf. This signaled that it was safe to go onto the land. God promised that he would never destroy the earth with a flood again and placed a rainbow in the sky as a sign of his promise. Okay? Now, hearing this story and hearing how we like to break this stuff down, you can already see where I'm going with this. Okay? First and foremost, the main reason God destroyed the world was because it was completely overrun with wickedness. It was completely overrun with wickedness. Now, imagine the world as the music industry, okay? Especially when you see all this Young Thug, and Drake and this whole situation going on, from the fact that we found out that Young Thug was actually buying number ones in order to get in front of Gunna getting a number one. This showed us that all these numbers and all this was an illusion, and people were just buying spots, right? For the people that like to listen to music with their eyes instead of their ears, right? But even if we go in a deeper layer, the fact that there is so much blackmail in the music industry, that there is so much do this and I'll do that in the music industry, that there is so much, I want to say, people taking advantage of other people in the music industry, that the music industry completely became about the corruption of society, getting people to lean more into their lower inhibitions. That's what music became. Every time you turn the radio on, every time you go on Spotify, all the music that's at the top of the charts is 90% trying to push you to your lower inhibitions.
I'm gonna tell you something too. There's something about Drake. Just first of all, Drake needs to start acting his age. And I also think like these messages like X is crazy, he just took some pills and he crashed out. This is something that I said when I react to Juice WRLD's music. I hate hearing shit like that. I really do. Right? Because you are glorifying that shit.
That doesn't mean that all like the music gotta be gospel and everything you rap about gotta be positive and growth. No, that's not what we're saying, because we're human too, right? But when it becomes 99% that, there's a problem. And all we were hearing about in music is sex, drugs, murder, infidelity, just a bunch of degeneracy. That's all we were hearing. And music is the highest form of vibration. It's the reason why they use the music to keep us in a cycle and loop of control, in a cycle and loop of lower inhibitions and interacting with our lower self so that we don't interact with our higher self, right? The music industry had completely been overridden by that. And even if we go into a lower level, an even darker level, when we start talking about the trafficking, when we start talking about the whole Diddy situation and everything that we found out through that. And I think we only found out the surface level stuff when it came to the Diddy stuff. But when you look at the music industry, right, and what it became, and then you look, especially when they talk about the people who control it, the people abusing the talents of people who don't know, typically who didn't know any better. That's what it became. When you look at the world of that time and you look at the music industry of this time, they're extremely similar. So why wouldn't there be, especially when it's the highest form vibration, why wouldn't there be a metaphorical flood incoming? And that's what we're kind of witnessing lately. The shift that we've been talking about can be metaphorically parallel to the flood. But let's keep going. Kendrick represents Noah. Now, this doesn't mean that Kendrick is blameless. This doesn't mean that Kendrick never sinned. This doesn't mean that Kendrick is above human, right? And that's honestly one of the main reasons why Kendrick Lamar's music is so relatable to most people, is because he is openly human. He is open with his mistakes and open with the fact that he is a human being, right? Because of this, we start to recognize Noah was being chosen simply because of his faith and the fact that he was walking alongside God in a world that was riddled with wickedness. This is the same thing you can say for Kendrick. Even when Kendrick was going through his moments of infidelity, abusing his power, like Kendrick wasn't above that, by the way. Kendrick was doing this stuff too, abusing his power, his infidelity, cheating on his partner, using his influence to get at his opponents and and all this different stuff. Kendrick is not necessarily free of these of this criticism. However, the one thing that was consistent with Kendrick was the fact that he was walking with God and that he was open, repentful, and honest about his flesh versus his faith. And that's exactly why I believe that him comparing himself to Noah is extremely similar, right? Because now, if we go down to the overall infrastructure of the music industry, it's collapsing. The music industry is collapsing right in front of us. Everywhere you look, people are talking about the fact that things are not working. The secrets are being exposed. You see what I'm saying? There's not enough money in it. Things aren't charting like they were before. All this different stuff. The music industry of old is completely collapsing. And the key word is the music industry of old, just like the world of old, the wicked world, right? Why wouldn't it be seen as Kendrick doing God's work, right? Being chosen to do God's work by eliminating the face of this degeneracy, which is Drake, the face of somebody who is not only using his influence to dominate and control, but giving that influence to other people who are also pushing degeneracy. It's certain people you've never seen Drake collab with. That's one thing we never talk about. He did give a lot of people features, right? He did hop on waves and stuff like that. But you never seen him hop on a wave of somebody who might have been pushing a conscious message on a consistent level. It was usually the Young Thugs of the world, the Lil Babies of the world, the people who are also pushing degeneracy, and nobody talks about that, right? So Kendrick Lamar, getting him out of the way and moving him out of the spotlight and pushing him down creates a completely different type of opening, which is why you see the Young Thugs of the world, the Lil Babies of the world, and all these guys starting to panic. I mean, Young Thug literally just made a song apologizing to everybody because he needs a feature for the album coming out. If you think he's genuinely apologizing, you are sadly mistaken. Young Thug is apologizing because he needs features for these upcoming albums, okay? It's the same reason he was getting. This is why Kendrick represents Noah, especially when we look at the song Bodies. reincarnated with love. My Gemini twin back powering up. No more handshakes and hugs. The industry only circulate through us. Everybody must be judged, but this time God only favoring us. What does that sound like? That sounds like the story of Noah. Everybody in the wicked world must be judged, but this time God is only favoring me and my family, my friends' families, and the animals of the world, right? Which brings me to my PG Lang and TDE comparison. In my eyes, while Kendrick, so the world represents the music industry, right? Kendrick represents Noah. PG Lang and the TDE infrastructure represents the art. Now let's do it. Okay, let's break this down. All right. In an industry that's collapsing, in an industry that's starting to fall, we are now witnessing or realizing that whole time that Kendrick was just sitting there, that whole time that Kendrick wasn't active, he created a label, he signed an artist, gave that artist features. Those features blew up, which built his brand, right? TDE is still working on Doechii. They're working on the bots, not totally dependent on the idea of what they're doing, but the reality of what they're doing. And the proof is Kendrick Lamar and SZA just did a stadium tour. Nobody on that side has the ability to do something as such. Why wouldn't Drake be able to do a stadium tour and he's got all these numbers and all this different stuff? It's because he was dependent on the image, the marketing of his brand, etc., rather than the actual music. Meaning the music, the people had already outgrown the music, but the marketing had kept the idea that everybody is still listening, everybody is still, etc., right? But the second that this was exposed, now these songs aren't staying on the charts no more. Guys are not even able to sell this nearly the same amount of copies that they were selling. And you see Kendrick still thriving. You see Playboi Carti thriving. Even though I think he pushes the degeneracy and all that stuff as well, but whatever. Playboi Carti thriving. Pusha T and Clips. Pusha T and Malice thriving. Kendrick Lamar does his Super Bowl. Everybody that's rocking with Rock Nation thriving. You feel what I'm saying? However you feel about Rock Nation is up to you, but what we're talking about is the music aspect. And as far as the music aspect goes, the people who are aligning themselves on that side, right, are thriving. And in my mind, PG Lang working in film, PG Lang starting to work in the getting involved, Kendrick Lamar getting involved with South Park and all this different stuff, the fact that they're moving into the film side, they have built an infrastructure that is going to keep them going after the music industry continues to collapse. In my eyes, this is the arc of the music industry. All the people that are walking onto this arc are thriving. The people who are aligned with this side are thriving. And the people who are not on that side are not thriving. You see what I'm saying? So from my perspective, the years of integrity, the years of actually putting in the work, the years of actually showing proof that the people are listening to the music, the years of constantly doing it the right way, doing it the integral way from the jump, making the music about the people, right? This is rewarded with the arc, metaphorically. And that is them being able to step in multiple avenues within this entertainment industry and place their foot in it, right? And that's how I think the arc shows up in this comparison. Now, this is the part I was a little confused about. Where are we at in the story? Because it's very clear that we're not in the part of the story where the arc is... we're not in the part of the story where the arc is being pushed onto the flood yet. I don't think we're at the part where they're on the top of the mountain and the bird is being sent out yet. Because clearly we still see the suing. We still see the phone calls coming out. We still see things being exposed. So clearly we are not on that part of the story yet. So where are we at? In my mind, this is the part where everybody is walking on to the arc. I think everybody is starting to walk onto the arc. The arc is being closed and the flood is coming down. I think at the furthest, we are at the part where the flood is happening. The flood is washing out all of the bullshit, right? As long as this Drake suing situation is going on, the flood is still going on. I think once that falls apart, once more of these industry secrets start coming out, that's when it'll be initially the new world. You see what I'm saying? The new world where the new representation for the next generation of hip hop will continue. When we get that, when we start seeing the new superstars coming out and they represent the same aspects of real culture and of the real movement of hip hop, that's when I think we'll get to that part of the story where the new world has been obtained. But as of right now, we're not in that part yet. I think there's still a war going on. There's still the metaphorical flood happening. And because of this, right, I think we are at the part where at minimum, people are walking onto the ark. At the most, everyone is on the ark and the flood is taking place. So I think once again, we proved that if you look around the world and you look at what's going on in this world, you can see that the stories in the Bible are just rehashing themselves over and over and over again. And when we can look at things from that perspective, we can see through propaganda clearly. We can see what the powers that be want to take in their next step clearly. We can see all these different things. And that's why I think it's important to have that perspective, to be able to look through history through the lens of the Bible. And I think regardless if you believe in the Bible or you're a Christian or whatever, and Christianity isn't directly, Christianity comes later in the Bible, by the way, but the Bible is much bigger than that religion. But when you can tie your version of history and what you're seeing to the Bible, you can see things a lot more clearly. And we are witnessing right now what Glasses Malone called the New Testament of hip hop, right? I think it's closer to this story, the story of Noah in hip hop, than it is, the New Testament. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You feel what I'm saying? Thank y'all for coming. Like, comment, subscribe, especially if you're new here, especially if you've been here. We be doing this every single Sunday. And yeah, I got another one planned out. I had this one planned out for last Sunday, so now I got another one for next week ready to go. And yeah, I'm excited to keep doing this. I love continuously learning about the Bible and then expressing that through art forms and through avenues that we all love. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, appreciate y'all. Like, comment, subscribe, especially if you're new here, especially if you've been here. I'm gonna catch y'all.